Hi, I'm Jennifer Cody. Welcome to From the Land to the Table, and today we're going to cook up some chicken salad. Okay, now let me tell you something about the chicken. It doesn't chop that well if it's all still warm, but you know, let's say you're making a big batch. I've portioned this up. I boned some. If you watched an earlier show, I put some in the plastic wrap, and then you just let it cool off in your refrigerator. Do this over, you know, the day before or something. And what we're gonna do, we need about 2 cups, and this just cuts real nicely. I'm gonna help my processor because my processor is actually getting a little old and might not process really well. I'm just cutting this up. And we are going to put this chicken, we need about 2 cups. And if you're making chicken salad for a big party, you're going to just maybe use all this, maybe a little more. Let's just start with this for now. You pulse it so it doesn't turn into a puree. And we'll put this, we're making a little more than 2 cups of chicken here. We'll just go with that for starters. And got our chicken going on. Our celery, just gonna get this done too. Another 2 cups or so. I would say we're making a double recipe here, so I'll just do up some celery. This is not a technical science. Yeah, we're just gonna cut this. It makes it a lot easier to cut if you just leave your celery whole and cut some off the top. I rinsed it because sometimes you get a little surprise in there, get some dirt in the cracks, but it's looking good. Okay, we're just going to put the celery in this processor. And you know, not everybody has a processor. So if you don't, just, you can hand chop it. You would chop it a little finer, but if you do have something like this, you can make a whole lot of chicken salad or whatever. Okay, so we have our chicken and celery, basic components of chicken salad. But what makes this one special is the caramelized walnuts. Everybody seems to love that. So we are going to get to that. I'm getting my pan warm right now, and in the meantime, while it's waiting to get smoking, has to get smoking hot, we're going to soak some raisins. This is another step that I do ahead of time. About a 1/2 cup of raisins and a 1.5 tablespoons or so of the red wine vinegar. That gives you a little bit of a sweet and a sour thing going on there. Now, this is usually done a day ahead, and I actually have some that this has been soaking, and it soaks up most of the red wine vinegar, which is pretty cool because if your raisins have not soaked up vinegar, they're going to soak up mayonnaise, and if you've ever seen a raisin fat on mayonnaise, it doesn't look good. So this is going to look better in your salad. It can sit out for a while, and the raisins aren't going to get a scary look to them. Okay, so now we are going to caramelize the walnuts. And now this is a skill that you probably could learn by watching me, but it's kind of hard to describe. This pan is smoking hot. I'm going to have a mitt on for this. And you just sprinkle. Look at that, it's melting already. That's what you want. And you don't stir it or it'll just lump up into a big clunk, but you just let it melt and you shake it a little, and it kind of gets the unmelted part melted. And I'll just turn it on a little bit more and finish it off. It's almost there. Then we're going to add 2 cups of walnuts to this and stir it around. 1 to 2 cups. I guess I like walnuts a little bit, so I'm going to do that. This is almost ready. If you look, it's a little more sugar there that's not quite all the way. This is what sugar looks like when you've caramelized it. And now it's hot. I don't really want it to keep getting hotter or it will burn. So I am going to add the nuts. They cool off the sugar a little bit. And you stir these around in here till you got this all mixed up. Getting the walnuts in, 1 or 2 cups, and stir the caramelized sugar. And this is just sugar. You don't have to add any butter or anything else. So, okay, so it's got sugar, but it's low fat. Well, except for the walnuts, but the walnuts are a good fat. So here's one good way to eat your walnuts. Not too hard to do it with covered in sugar. We're just going to let these cool off over here, and we're going to move on. So it is really pretty windy out here, which reminds me of, there's storms in life, and the Israelites had a lot of storms in their lives. They were stuck in Egypt and they were slaves, and God promised to take them out of that land into this good and spacious land flowing with milk and honey. Yet they did not get to that land for so long. They had to go through all these storms, this turmoil, and it was actually so easy to get to that land. And it's the same for us. God has promises for us. He wants to bring us into this good and spacious land. And yet we let all these storms in life kind of drag us away from that. But God's purpose is always to bring us to this land of milk and honey. That's where I want to come from. God's put me in a place that I'm just so grateful for where He's put me. And I want to share with you some of what He's put into me. When the disciples were in this boat and the waves were just crashing and they were getting pretty nervous, Jesus just told the waves to be still. And of course the disciples were amazed that there could be so much going on and everything seemed out of control, and Jesus comes in and just says, be still. It's so simple. When Jesus is in our life, He calms the storms. It's easy when I am in the middle of my own storm. It's really easy to just say, wait a minute, no, never mind, forget everything, I'm upset, or this is just awful for me personally. And yeah, whatever, that's not my solution today. Jesus, is that going to work for me today? He does work. And sometimes I have to be disciplined and make a conscious effort to remind myself that He's there. It's easy to say, no, that's not for me. This is too big for me. You just don't know. But He knows. You never know how hard God might be trying to get your attention. And yet He's still chasing us down all the time. I mean, we get into weird, slippery places, standing on rocks with seaweed on them. And He's there right beside us, ready to catch us. He's always there for us, and we need to give Him a chance. I want to tell you a little bit about this chicken, because if you did have a big party coming up and you had to make a bunch of chicken salad or what have you, there's an easy way to do that. Now, last episode I was boning chicken to use for the future purposes. You don't have to do that. When I am in a hurry, a lot of the times, most of the time, I just get boneless, skinless chicken breast, and I use my iron pan. If you don't know already, I'll show you. These pans are great. I've got all sizes. This is a bigger one, and I just get maybe a bag of the frozen boneless, skinless chicken breasts. Just put all your breasts in there, put that in the oven, even frozen. They say you don't have to thaw it, and cook these. You don't even have to stir the chicken. If you grill it on the stove, you have to watch it, but if you're, having a party and a lot of people are coming and you need to make a lot of food, just put a bunch of chicken in the oven the day before and let it cook. And then, as you notice, I took that chicken last time and put it in the plastic wrap, and it just kind of makes it nice and solid and easy to cut or chop the next day. Mayonnaise is another obvious component. We're going to put, well, this batch, like I said, I'm kind of making a double recipe here. A smaller recipe calls for 1 cup. We're putting in about 2. Now, one thing I do is I measure my salt if it's a larger quantity, because you don't want it to be way too salty. A 1/4 teaspoon. I'm making double. I'm going to use a 1/2. This way you're not messing around with the salt. Get the salt right. And pepper. I don't really have to measure this. Just put a little bit of pepper in. And now I could add my raisins. All right. Now the beauty of this chicken salad, I said it before, if you plan ahead a little bit, it's really not a hassle to make a large quantity, because make a small quantity for the family and get the recipe down, but it is so nice when you've made it a few times and then you've got a big event and you have to like quadruple this recipe. You've gone through the motions and you know how to cook a bunch of chicken easy. Do it in the oven, then you don't have to turn it. Let it cool off overnight. It's just so much easier to work with. If you've ever tried to chop hot chicken, it's just kind of greasy and slippery. So this way you're just going to get it done a lot quicker. We're going to chop these nuts. They have cooled off a little bit. This is a good sign. If they're still glunky and warm, they're sticky, but right now I think it's a good time to chop them. Again, if you didn't know it before from the last episode, this knife is great. Again, you can get these for a really good price at international markets or what have you. And with this giant blade, your fingers are good and safe. And I can really make a racket and go really fast with this if I wanted to, right? But even if you haven't had a lot of experience, you can just chop really well with the big knife. Now, if you're having a dinner or a lunch, you can slap this on a sandwich. If you're having a light lunch, you could put a scoop of this on some greens, and it will be a little lighter. A lot of people are trying to do a lower starch kind of thing, lower carb. Okay, we're just mixing this up, and this is going to be good. Okay, so right now we've got a big bowl of chicken salad. If you have lunch or dinner, you can go light and just have it on some greens. If you're having a party, you're going to have to do something a little more creative and something that always looks good. We're just going to make a few sandwiches. Just 1 leaf of lettuce on that is going to make that look good. And we're going to cut up some bread and make some little kind of like appetizer things. Okay, so we're cutting up. You can get a lot of bread if you're having a lot of people over. Make a whole lot of trays of this. Just going to put a little on each sandwich, and that's going to be a fun kind of snack to have for everybody. Just not run-of-the-mill. It's not just your average chicken salad. Here, a really great snack tray. And it's really good. Hey, I'm back at the market. Today I've got the privilege of getting some portobellos here in the organic section. I love it. These are good. They're great. They're firm. They're not dried out. And I'm just going to grab maybe 5 of these. You can do different things with these, but they're just a treat. They're so meaty. I actually
sometimes use them as the meat of my dinner, and we've had something like a portobello mushroom with cheese and garlic broiled. It's so good, on top of some pasta, and even without meat, it's really great. I'm gonna get some of these too. Okay, and you know, I wanted some red pepper for a garnish for my colors, so I'm actually going for these. One thing I do is I just feel these and make sure that they do feel real firm. That's usually, actually, see, this one feels firmer. I'm going for this. And, you know, these have a little dirt on them, you know, but that's okay, because I'm not going for cosmetically perfect here. It's not a perfect shape, but sometimes that's a good sign that the produce is a better quality. It's not a super hybrid, you know, variety that, you know, they use pesticides on or whatever. So it's okay with me. I am okay with a little irregularity. It's sometimes a good thing to look for. I'm gonna get some red pepper here. I think I'll get a little extra garlic and grab a few red onions today. The red onions they're colorful. I still do really like the flavor of the yellow onions. They can be real sweet to cook up, and I'm just going to grab the red ones more for color when I'm adding them to a salad or something today. And these look good. Well, that's a perfect looking one. And if they've got more paper on them too, that's a good sign of being, you know, good and fresh. And grab a few more here. I'll go grab some yellow onions. Okay. Well, this is another organic stand. I just love it that you can get all this stuff organic, and just better nutrition for your family, better for the environment. You know, when you can. I can't always get organic, but even a fresh vegetable is great, organic or not. But if you can, you know, grab this stuff when you can. Get one of these too. And now this is a good one. Some of these, well, I don't know if they have any that aren't so great. It's a nice tight, got lots of, you know, paper to it. There's no black soft spots. If you ever push one and it blows up some dust, it's just molding and rotting, and that's not good. So we're gonna get a few of these things right here. You know, the words of Jesus are like yeast. You know, the yeast goes into the bread, and it takes the flour and turns it into something, you know, a loaf of bread for us to eat. And it starts with just this little bit of yeast that permeates the whole loaf. And I mean, wouldn't it be great if we could infuse life into, you know, others just by sharing God's word? If you know Jesus, you want to do that. You want to spread that yeast and just see other people get fed. You know, Jesus fed 4,000 and 5,000 people at a time, and his word feeds us, feeds our soul. That's the beauty of it, is he, you know, through his word gives us love, and we want to share that love. And, you know, even when he was in the desert, he told the devil, man does not live by bread alone. He knew that, you know, just because he was hungry, turning a rock into a piece of bread wasn't going to solve anything for him, because it wasn't about our stomachs. It's about our souls, you know. And we want to be fed by something that's going to really satisfy us, and something that's going to give us enough life that we have something to share with other people. Hey, I'm back in the garden looking at some of the produce here, and you know, I think of these tomatoes are pretty amazing. I only have a few left right now. It's the end of the year, end of the season. Like this one right here, not that big, and I didn't get this huge crop, but we had some friends over, you know, this was our little secret. We were having these on salads going, oh, the flavor's crazy good. It's just intense. It's indescribable. And, you know, but we had our friends over and we thought maybe it was just us. And my friend Judy's going, oh my gosh, the tomatoes they're crazy good. And so then we knew, you know, yeah, we're not imagining it. They're so good. The thing is, I mean, look at this tomato. It's not that big. And it's not, you know, looking like some of these huge red tomatoes of the world that, you know, they look really good, and then you cut into them and they're mealy and they don't even have any flavor. It's kind of depressing. You know, and the stuff of this world, it looks good, but does it really taste good? Does it really have any flavor? Okay, yeah, something that these farmers know, some of them, to get the best flavor out of the tomatoes, you actually withhold some of the water. You can water them up until the point where they've started to put out the flower buds, and then you take away all the extra water and you actually water them less, and it kind of puts the plant into a little bit of a struggle to stay alive, and the energy it has goes into producing these excellent, you know, flavored fruits. And you know, in our own life, we might wonder sometimes, it's like, oh man, why am I going through this? This is tough, you know, like a tomato plant might wonder that when it's getting water withheld from it. But it's to produce a sweeter fruit. You know, in our lives, when we go through the tough stuff, it's like, it's okay, just weather it. You know, by the grace of God, we get through stuff. And in the end, it makes us sweeter. I mean, that's what He wants for us, is for us to be a sweet fruit, you know, to be something that's full of joy and something worthwhile that can be shared with others.
Okay, I just have to show you a little bit more while we're on the subject of caramelizing. This pan, again, is hot. You want to get your skillet really hot for caramelizing the sugar. It is amazing that all we're putting in the pan is white sugar, and it will turn golden brown when it's caramelized. And there's a few things about it. It looks easy, but one thing I was sure to do is pick the right size pan. If you get a bigger skillet and you're only putting a little sugar in, it's going to burn before you can handle it, you know, do something with it. So for the amount I'm using for a few of us, I've got a smaller pan. I'm going to make us a little bit of caramel sauce for some ice cream. Okay, we're going to put the sugar in here and caramelize it. This pan is looking pretty smoking. Oh yeah, it's smoking. And we're just gonna let that, this one was really hot. Okay, this is looking good. Our caramelized sugar is just about there. You can stir this if you want. It can glump up on your spoon sometimes though, so that's why I like to tilt it. I'm going to turn off the heat now. Now the beauty of this is, if your pan was too hot and you burnt it, sugar is cheap and you can just start over again. I have done that. And if your pan wasn't quite hot enough and you're looking at it and it's just sitting there, just keep the heat on and it'll melt slowly. Now what you do, now that we've got this going on, just add some cream. I love this because it is so easy. And you would think this would be enough caramel sauce for a few of us for dessert. But somehow, no matter how much caramel I make, we're still scraping the pitcher for more afterwards. Now, you can buy a jar of caramel sauce and it's just never going to taste this good. It's really yummy. It's looking about right. I just put in maybe 1/3 of a cup or so, and I had maybe less than a cup, but more than a 1/2 cup of sugar there. And that makes some caramel sauce, instant dessert. I just picked up some ice cream at the store, and you know, when I know a few special people are coming over for dinner, you know, we don't have dessert every night, but because I am having a few people over, I got the ice cream. I did not have time to bake, but we're all gonna have a treat. All that it took was the sugar, some cream, and some ice cream. Dish some of this up right now because I better make sure it's good. I wouldn't want to give it to our guests and have it not be quite right. Now this is great. Check that out. Oh, a hot caramel sauce on some ice cream. I love this stuff. Okay, well, today we did make the caramelized walnuts for the chicken salad. Great party dish or just for a nice lunch or even a light dinner. We made the caramel sauce to go on ice cream anytime you're having some people over, want a little dessert that's easy. And if you want any of those recipes, you can go online from thelandtothetable.com. And if you forget, you can go and check out the cookbook from the land of milk and honey. Until then, we'll see you next time.
Okay, well, here we are at the place where a lot of my cooking experience began, the new Deli in Pinole, California. And 22 years ago, my husband and I started this. We raised a family here practically, and I ended up writing a cookbook last year and put all the recipes that people really enjoyed from eating here, some extras too, in the cookbook, and thought, now people want a cooking lesson, live, so I thought, well, I'll get this cooking show going and people can learn a little more about the cooking that way.